All right, it's a few minutes after 6, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us for the community kickoff for the Near Southeast Area Plan. We're all really excited that you're here and really excited to launch this plan. So before we get into things, a few technical things. If you have a question during the meeting, you can use the Q&A function. And then for those of you that were on a few minutes early, you've heard we've had a few issues with the interpretation, but I'm going to have Indira, our Spanish interpreter, give some instructions on how you can access Spanish interpretation.
Hi there, my name is Indira Guzman and I'm here with the CLC, the Community Language Co-op. And in order to create a space where everyone can participate and engage in the language of their hearts, we're going to be offering Zoom interpretation via another Zoom room. So I am going to put that in the chat and I will repeat this in Spanish for our Spanish speakers. But if anyone needs to join in Spanish, please join the Zoom link that I will post shortly. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Indira y estoy aquí con la Community Language Co-op y en un segundo vamos a publicar un enlace en el chat para que usted se una a otro cuarto donde vamos a estar interpretando en español. Por favor, únase a ese enlace que voy a publicar. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Indira. So with that, we can get started. And so we're really happy to have the 3 council members that represent parts of the planning area with us tonight, and they would like to say a few words. So we'll start with Councilman Cashman, if you'd like to kick us off.
Thank you, Scott. We've got a lot of work to do, so I will keep my comments short. For those I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Paul Cashman. I've had the honor of representing District 6 on Denver City Council for the last 6 years. I believe today is actually the 6th year anniversary. I'm so glad to be here tonight, so excited to begin this important planning process with all of you. I do want to recognize Councilmember Black from District 4, representing the Near Southeast Plan area south of Evans Avenue, and Councilmember Sawyer from District 5, representing the northern reaches of the study. She also has experience in other area plans that have unfolded in the past year or so. I want to thank all the community members for your interest, your willingness to participate in creating the context in which our community will develop over the coming years. I want to give a shout out to Scott and the team from Community Planning and Development for their work to lay the foundation for this effort. And I really want to give special thanks to the members of the steering committee, about 20 strong, who will guide the creation of the plan and facilitate your involvement by bringing their voices into all corners of the planning area. I look forward to working with all of you over the next 18 months or so. And I truly believe that together we can do some real good work. So thanks again for coming, and I look forward to working with you. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Councilman Cashman. Councilman Black, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Scott. And Councilman Cashman, thanks for introducing me. I'm really, really excited about this. I'm excited to work with Council members Cashman and Sawyer and your constituents and my constituents, and with our CPD representatives, Scott Robinson, Libby Adams, and Jason Morrison. Councilman Cashman mentioned that today is the 6th anniversary of our starting this job as council members. And ever since I got on the council, I have been asking CPD for a neighborhood plan for University Hills North. So yay, it took 6 years. So I'm so excited. I see a lot of people on this meeting from University Hills North. You know, we've been working toward this for a very long time. So this is something to celebrate, and I'm very excited about it. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Councilwoman Black, and Councilwoman Sawyer.
Thanks so much, Scott, and thank you to both Councilman Cashman and Councilwoman Black I think they've pretty much covered it at this point. Really appreciate all of the community members who are here tonight. I'm looking at over 102 actually participants, which is just a fantastic turnout, and it's really exciting. You know, these are really great conversations that we're about to have moving forward over the next 18 months to 2 years while we decide sort of the direction that our community is going to go. So really appreciate everyone's interest in this and participation. Thank you for being here. Don't hesitate to reach out to our office if you have questions or if there's anything we can do. And really thank you so much to CPD planners, really, and also Indira, thanks for being here to translate, and looking forward to the process. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Councilwoman Sawyer. Just quickly go over the agenda tonight, and then we can dive into it. So we have a brief welcome, which we are in the middle of now. And then we will give an overview of how planning works in Denver, what plans do, and what they don't do. Talk specifically about the Near Southeast Plan process, what that looks like, how long that'll take, what that involves. Talk about the engagement that will go into that and how you can participate. And then we're going to have a question and answer session at the end. So I mentioned previously that Q&A button, if you use that to submit questions, if you have technical issues, we'll try to address them in real time. But if there's a question about anything that comes up during the presentation that you'd like us to answer, submit that, and we will hopefully have time at the end to get to that. So with that, I want to do a few introductions. So you've heard our names already, but my name is Scott Robinson. I'm with Denver Community Planning and Development, and I am the project manager for the Near Southeast Area Plan. Also with me from CPD are Libby Adams and Jason Morrison. So I'll ask them to do a brief introduction of themselves. Libby, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm Libby Adams. I'm an associate city planner with Community Planning and Development.
So Libby and Jason.
Hi, good afternoon, Southeast Denver. I'm Jason Morrison, senior city planner with Community Planning and Development. And I'm especially excited to be working on this particular area plan because not only am I a native of Denver, but I actually grew up in the Virginia Village neighborhood. So I'm excited to have these conversations with everyone this evening. So Jason and Libby will be working with me on this plan throughout the process. So you'll likely see them tonight. They'll mostly be in the background handling the Q&A and some other background tasks, but just wanted to introduce them. And with that, we can start the presentation. So I hope most of you know what we are talking about when we say Near Southeast, but just so we're all on the same page, the Near Southeast area, as we define it for this planning purpose, includes the neighborhoods of Washington, Virginia Vale, Virginia Village, Indian Creek, and Goldsmith, and then the northern half of the University Hills neighborhood north of Yale Avenue. So you can see the neighborhoods there on the left, and on the right, sort of an outline map. The boundaries are roughly Alameda Avenue on the north to Yale Avenue on the south, and Colorado Boulevard on the west to Quebec Street and the city boundary on the east. So I went over the agenda. In between those segments, we're going to have some interactive opportunities. So we're going to do a little polling and survey options, and we're going to use a tool called Menti. So if you could open up your browser. If you're on a computer, you can open that up separately from Zoom, or you can also do this on your phone. Or if you're on the meeting on your phone, you can open it up on your phone browser or on a separate device. It doesn't really matter whether you're on the same device or a different device. But if you can go to menti.com and enter this code, when you go to Menti, I will show you what you will see really quickly. So when you open up the Menti website in your browser, this is what you'll see. And you enter this 8-digit code, 87335241, and that will start the polling options for you. So let me launch that. Oh, wait, sorry. Different code. The code changed on me. So use the code that you see at the top here. So that's 95170567.
So enter those 8 digits into that Menti website, and you should see the website here. And if you're having problems with it, like I said, you can enter questions in the Q&A and we should be able to help you. If for some reason it's just not working for you, there will be other ways that you can provide this information. There's an online survey you can take and other things. We'll go over that later. But you will be able to participate even if you can't make this work tonight. But we just thought this would be fun to provide some interactivity to this meeting. So it's not just me talking at you for an hour, which I don't think anybody wants. So that, let's try this. So first question is what neighborhood you live in. So it should be a pretty simple one. We've got the options for the 5 neighborhoods in your southeast there. And if you live outside the area, that's fine. Thanks for coming. That's great. But you can select other as well. Looks like we're getting some results. Great. All right, so it looks like Virginia Village is well represented, which is to be expected. That is the largest neighborhood in the area. So good to see good turnout from there, but all the other neighborhoods are represented as well. So that's great that we have folks from every neighborhood at least. And it looks like results are still trickling in. This is the first one, so we'll give it a little extra time as people are figuring it out. And then later questions will go a little bit quicker. Looks like we got about 70 results, so I think that's good. And we'll move on to the next question, which is where do you work? So again, we have the options for 5 neighborhoods within the area. But I understand a lot of folks might work outside the area. So again, you can put other, and that is fine as well. All right, so yeah, vast majority works outside the area, which like I said, that's not surprising, but we do have representation from all of the neighborhoods as well. So that's great. All right, now understand sort of what makes you interested in the planning process. So, you know, for a lot of you, it'll be that you live in the area or work in the area or both, but there may be other options here, like you own property, you operate a business, or you just like visiting the area and you're interested in how it will evolve in the future or anything else. So. Yeah, looks like most folks live in the area, which again, matches with our earlier questions. It's good that we're getting consistent results. All right, great. And then I'd like to know how you heard about this meeting. So want to make sure that our efforts to get the word out are working and that we're directing them to the right places so that in the future we can be efficient in how we notify the community about events like this. So yeah, let us know what worked for you this time and we can make sure that we continue to do that in the future. All right, looks like our flyers and mailers worked, as well as information from the council offices and our own website and emails. So that's good to know. All right, so that is it for the questions for now. We're going to come back to this, so don't close the browser or whatever you're using to do that, because we will come back to this. But for now, we're going to switch back over to the presentation. Where's my presentation? There it is. All right, so planning in Denver. So I'm going to give a brief overview of generally what plans do, and then talk about some more specifics related to the Near Southeast Area Plan. So first, what is a plan? Why do we plan? Plan is a long-term policy document that the city uses to make decisions, and it's based on a shared community vision for how the community members want their city or their neighborhood to evolve in the future. So the idea is that a plan will engage the community members in a dialogue about what they want their community to be like in the future, use that to define a vision and recommend strategies to achieve that vision, and use that to inform decision-making both from the city and from private individuals. Plans, like I said, are policy documents, so they don't themselves set or change regulations. That will need to happen through a later process. So the plan can recommend changes to city code or regulations or things like that, but those would have to be adopted by city council through a separate process. They also don't establish budgets for implementation. It can, again, recommend spending money on certain things, but the budget is established by city council. And so it would need to be done through that separate process. And the plan does not provide detailed design or engineering. So we can recommend things like an improved crosswalk or an underpass or a bike lane, but we won't actually design those. That, again, would be a follow-on process to get into the details of how that would actually look and work. And then, so the plan makes recommendations. You may be wondering, it sounds like it doesn't actually do much, but it sets that vision that guides future decisions by the city. And so there are sort of three types of ways that the plan can be implemented. One is through regulation, things like changes to the Denver zoning code or the municipal code, adoption of new rules or requirements. And again, all that happens through a subsequent process after the adoption of the plan. Second bucket is funding. So that can be through the annual budget adopted by city council, through the capital budget, or things like bond programs. When we do sort of the 10-year bond programs, a lot of the projects in those big bond packages were first identified in plans like this. And then the third is partnerships. So working with groups outside the city, whether that's local organizations within each community, things like land trusts, or big organizations like the school district or RTD to implement the recommendations of the plan. So you may be wondering how much impact a plan can really have. And for those of you that have been in Denver for a while, you may remember what the Commons Park and Union Station area looked like back in the 90s. It used to be a rail yard. After that sort of went away, it was just this big patch of dirt. And in the 90s, early 90s, the city did a plan for the Commons Park area and the Union Station area. And over the next 25 years, we've all seen how that has evolved and developed. And even that picture on the right is a few years old, and it's developed even more since then. So that's the kind of impact that a plan can have in totally transforming an area. We're not expecting that kind of wholesale transformation anywhere in near Southeast. But this is just, I think, a good illustration of the type of impact that a plan can have. So these plans are important, and they do have an impact. When we talk about plans, we generally talk about them operating at sort of two levels, the citywide level or the neighborhood or small area plan level. The Near Southeast plan is a small area plan or a neighborhood plan. So I'm going to give a brief overview of what citywide plans are, and then we'll dive into the Near Southeast plan and other neighborhood plans. But all of the plans for Denver flow from what we call the Comprehensive Plan, or Comprehensive Plan 2040, which was adopted 2 years ago. And it sets really broad, high-level policy goals for the entire city across a really broad range of topics. And then there are other citywide plans that are sort of adopted underneath that, that address specific topics. And then underneath those are the neighborhood and small area plans that really dive into a specific area. So the citywide plans, like I said, set broad policies that apply citywide. Many of them focus on single topics like the Parks and Recreation Game Plan, Denver Moves plans that deal with specific mobility options. What we in planning deal with mostly is the comprehensive plan and Blueprint Denver, which is our citywide land use and transportation master plan. So the comprehensive plan, as I mentioned, covers a broad range of topics. In the plan, it's divided into 6 what we call vision elements. And that's gives you a high level idea of what the plan is trying to accomplish with the city. So that's creating an equitable, affordable, and inclusive city with strong and authentic neighborhoods, connected, safe, and accessible places, environmentally, economically diverse and vibrant economy, environmentally resilient, and healthy and active population. So again, that's the high level comprehensive plan. And then underneath that is Blueprint Denver, which again covers the entire city and deals with land use and transportation. And the vision for Blueprint Denver is to create an equitable city, a city of complete neighborhoods and networks, and an evolving city. And I'll go into a little more of what each of those means. So when we talk about equity, it's one of the key components of Blueprint Denver and the comp plan, and will be a key component of the Near Southeast area plan. And we're talking about guiding change to benefit everyone. And we think it's really important that everyone is on the same page about equity. So I'm going to read this definition of equity from Blueprint Denver. You can find this in the plan, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So I'm going to spend a minute here reading it. Equity is when everyone, regardless of who they are or where they come from, has the opportunity to thrive. Where there is equity, a person's identity does not determine their outcome. As a city, we advance equity by serving individuals, families, and communities in a manner that reduces or eliminates persistent institutional biases and barriers based on race, ability, gender identity and sexual orientation, age, and other factors. So that will be a guiding principle throughout our upcoming planning process. In Blueprint Denver, the way we measure equity is dividing it into 3 what we call equity concepts that focus on improving access to opportunity, so creating places where everyone has those opportunities to thrive, reducing vulnerability to displacement for both residents and businesses to make sure that they can stay in their areas and continue to be successful, and expanding housing and jobs diversity to make sure that every neighborhood and every area has an opportunity to have a variety of housing options and job options. So Blueprint has a whole bunch of recommendations about how to achieve this. I've pulled out a few key ones that will be particularly relevant for our planning process. So these are things that the city is trying to advance and that Near Southeast area plan will have to advance as well. And we'll be able to look at how specifically these will apply in the Near Southeast area. So we want to integrate services and daily amenities in all neighborhoods, ensure affordable housing is available in every neighborhood, incorporate missing middle housing thoughtfully. So missing middle is things like duplexes or row houses or small apartment buildings that provide a range of options between the traditional single family house and the really large apartment buildings that we see a lot being built around the city. And then allowing accessory dwelling units throughout the city as well. The second vision element was a city of complete neighborhoods and networks. So that is looking at making sure every neighborhood has appropriate land uses, appropriate mobility options, and a variety of what we call quality of life infrastructure. It's sort of a weird term that we use as a catch-all for things like parks, stormwater management, healthy food, access to healthcare. So it's sort of a broad bucket that makes sure that people have the amenities that they need. So that's sort of what a complete neighborhood is, having all of those things, and complete networks is looking at all the modes of transportation and making sure all of those are well connected and serve the population. So in terms of complete neighborhoods, key policies are improving design in all neighborhoods so that new construction and additions fit in, improving access to shopping, jobs, and entertainment in every neighborhood, and ensuring everyone has access to parks, recreation, greenery, and social amenities. And then in terms of complete mobility networks, we're trying to encourage mode shift away from people driving alone to other options like walking, biking, and using transit. We're not looking to eliminate the use of the car, but we want to encourage people to use other modes. And throughout the city, prioritizing pedestrians, particularly pedestrian safety on all of our streets. And then the third vision element is an evolving city. So the city is growing and will continue to grow, but we want to make sure that it grows appropriately. So we have a growth strategy where the intent is to distribute growth appropriately throughout the city. So every neighborhood will grow some, but most of that direct growth will be directed to the more intense areas like downtown and what we call centers and corridors, which are the existing sort of mixed use areas along major streets or existing commercial areas. And we also want to make sure that we're growing appropriately so that we can limit climate impacts and improve resiliency. That's one of the biggest things we can do as a city, is make sure we're directing growth in the right places to reduce our climate impact. So a lot of these recommendations are being tackled through citywide projects, and some of these you may be familiar with or may have heard of. These are either already ongoing or will be launching soon in the next year or two. So we're looking at expanding housing affordability. That one's going on right now to look at how we can ensure new development includes appropriate amounts of affordable housing. We're also looking at updating regulations to accessory dwelling units to ensure that they are able to be built where appropriate. Looking at improving equity and rezoning, improving design quality in those centers and corridors, and also in residential areas. Those are all mostly focused on planning things, but this also impacts things happening throughout the city. So some of you may also be aware that we are currently working on what we call Denver Moves Everyone. So our Department of Transportation and Infrastructure is working on this, which is the citywide strategic transportation plan. So it's something called for in comprehensive plan and blueprint to update our strategic transportation plan and look at how over the next 30 years we can ensure we have the appropriate mobility options for the city. So there are opportunities to participate in this right now. So if you go to the website here, denvermoveseveryone.com, there's a survey up right now. It'll only be up for a few more days, but once that goes down, there will be new opportunities coming up later this summer. So go check this out as well. And this is just one example of another citywide implementation project that has come out of our citywide plans. So that's citywide planning. Now I want to talk briefly about neighborhood and small area planning, and particularly the near southeast area plan. So the neighborhood plans and small area plans take the broad citywide recommendations and apply them to a smaller area and are able to really dive into the details, and they incorporate a broad range of topics. So as I mentioned, a lot of those citywide plans deal with one specific topic. These neighborhood plans recombine all of those and look at how they all work together in a specific area. And so they will be adopted as a supplement to the comprehensive plan, and must be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the other citywide plans, although there is some opportunity to make updates to those plans as well. So they can't contradict those citywide goals, but we're looking at customized strategies for achieving those goals. So what do those mean in your neighborhood? How are we going to achieve that in an appropriate way for each specific neighborhood? They provide detailed guidance for land use and for rezonings. They recommend capital projects and facilities. Like I said, a lot of the things that come out of are included in our bond projects, come out of neighborhood plans, and they identify strategies for implementation and partnerships and things like that. So the Near Southeast Area Plan is part of the city's neighborhood planning initiative, which is a program to get area plans in the entire city over the next 15 to 20 years. So we are now in phase 2. We had 3 plans as part of phase 1, East Central, East, and Far Northeast. Those have all been adopted, and now we are moving into phase 2. The West plan is well underway. Near Southeast and Near Northwest are both launching this summer. And then once those plans are adopted, we will move on to phase 3, which has not been identified yet, but the idea is that we will cover the entire city in the next 15 to 20 years. All right, so that was a lot of me talking at you. So now we get another break. So go back over to Menti, and we'll have some more questions for you. All right, so again, if you lost where you were before, go back to menti.com and enter the code 95170567. Should take you right back to where you need to be. So now asking some questions about how you think about your area. So first one is about mobility. And asking about different modes, how easy you find it moving around near Southeast in each of those modes. So walking, rolling, and that can be either in a wheelchair or pushing a stroller or anything like that. When we say rolling, biking, using bus, light rail, or any type of transit, using an electric scooter, or driving. So if you can provide us an answer on each one of those, see them coming in already. All right, so it's looking like people find driving fairly easy, walking, biking, transit somewhat easy, electric scooter a little less than that, and then rolling not so easy. So that is good to know. Thanks everyone for taking that. Next question is about safety. Generally, how safe do you feel in your Southeast? And this is, it's pretty subjective, and it can be a broad range of things. So just give us your overall impression of safety in the area. All right. Well, that's pretty good. I think 3.5 out of 5 is not bad, but definitely leaves room for improvement. So that's good. The next question is about housing options. So we have a list of different groups of people or types of people who may be looking for housing options. So tell us how good you think the housing options are for each of these groups. I should have mentioned this earlier. If there's something you're not familiar with, you don't know, there's a skip option on each of those. So you can say, if you don't know one of these, feel free to skip it, and you can just answer the ones that you're familiar with. All right, it's looking pretty good for families, but not so good for low-income residents and residents with disabilities. So that is, that's good information. And then next question is about parks and recreation facilities. So how well do the existing parks and recreation facilities meet your needs for these different uses? So exercising or being physically active in the area, being close to nature, or using them for gathering and meeting with friends and family for things like picnics and parties and things like that. All right, it's looking pretty decent across the board, but again, definitely room for improvement. So that is good as well. All right, now talking about businesses, how well do the businesses in near Southeast meet your needs? So are you able to buy what you need from businesses in your neighborhood? Or do you find yourself going outside the neighborhood all the time to get groceries, get clothes, get whatever else it is you're out shopping for regularly? All right, so again, pretty good, but could be better. And then I think this is the last one in this section, asking about the amenities in near Southeast and which ones you think near Southeast needs more of. And you can pick up to 3 in this question. So the options are grocery or food stores, more general shopping, entertainment like bars or movie theaters, bowling alleys, restaurants, all types of restaurants. I lost my list there. Culturally meaningful places, events, so festivals, markets dedicated to or aimed at specific cultural groups or things like that, parks and recreation opportunities, outdoor seating and plazas, education opportunities, office space, healthcare options, childcare. I think that's everything. At least everything somebody's selected so far. All right. So the most popular one is culturally meaningful places. That's really interesting. And that'll be a great topic of conversation as we go through this plan to figure out what types of places and activities people want to be culturally meaningful. So that's something that we're able to dive into. Also, restaurants and outdoor seating and plazas scored high. So that's great to know. All right. So like I said, that's that for that round, but we will be back with more questions in a few minutes. So again, don't close that browser. Just hold on for a minute while we go through a few more slides here. So now I'm going to talk about the planning process for the near Southeast area plan. Starting with the planning team, already introduced the folks from CPD. You will also likely see Cortland Heiser, who is the supervisor for the neighborhood planning initiative. So he oversees all of the NPI plans that are going on. But he may attend meetings and events, so you'll likely see him at some point. But we're also working with the other departments throughout the city. Like I said, this plan will cover a broad range of topics. And so we need to make sure that the other departments in the city are represented. So our transportation and infrastructure department, parks and rec, housing, public health, economic development, and our climate action, sustainability, and resiliency office are all involved in the planning process. And you may see them at different meetings, and they will be heavily involved in the background in meetings you won't see, but internal meetings. But just know that they're involved in the plan and that the plan is developed by, it's led by CPD, but it's developed by the whole city staff. We're also hiring a consultant and you should start seeing them soon. We're close to getting them under contract and they will act as an extension of the staff team. So you'll see them at meetings and they will be doing some specialized work that we don't have the ability to do on staff, and helping us sort of fill in gaps like that. And then we're also working closely with the council member offices. So it's great that they are here at this meeting, and hopefully they will continue to attend meetings like this, and we will continue to work with them throughout the process. So speaking of the process, like I said, it's about an 18 to 24 month process to get the plan adopted. And we divide that into 5 phases. So right now we're in the first phase here, which we call understanding the area. So it's really diving into the background on the area, understanding what's going on now. So a lot of it is hearing from the community, like the questions we just asked, to understand how you perceive it, what you see in the area. And then we're also doing a lot of data analysis, pulling in data, making maps and analyzing those. And we'll sort of combine those to understand the issues and opportunities in the area. And we'll use that to go into the next phase, which is defining the issues and developing those initial recommendations. So at each one of these phases, there will be community engagement opportunities, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But when we come back to you in phase 2, we'll have said, based on what we heard and what we analyzed in phase 1, these are what we think are the primary issues that the plan needs to address. And these are some ideas for how to address it. And then we'll work with you to make sure we got those issues right and further develop those recommendations for addressing those issues. And we'll take all of that community input and create the first set of draft recommendations, which we'll again share with the community in phase 3 and work with you to improve and refine those recommendations so that they really are doing what the community wants to achieve the community's vision for how this area should evolve over the next 20 years. We'll take those refined recommendations and put them into a draft plan that we will again share with the community. You'll have an opportunity to review that draft plan, provide comments, recommend changes. We'll take all those comments, update the draft plan, improve it, and then we'll take that to the adoption process, which involves public hearings before Planning Board and City Council before the plan is ultimately adopted by City Council. So those are the 5 phases of the plan process. And again, we're hoping to do this in about 18 months. It could stretch out to about 2 years. So the near southeast area, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the neighborhoods of Washington, Virginia Vale, Virginia Village, Indian Creek, Goldsmith, and University Hills North. It's about 5.5 square miles, about 40,000 people live in the area, and there are about 20,000 housing units in the area. And so the plan will cover a range of topics. And the way we look at this is there's some things that we call always topics that every area plan will cover. And then there are focus topics, which are dependent on the specifics of the area. So I'll start with the always topics. So will include the vision, which we will be working on here in phase 1 to say, how does the community want to see this area evolve over the next 20 years? In 2040, what do we want this area to look like? And that'll set the guidelines for the entire plan. So all of the recommendations in the plan will be aimed at achieving that vision. And we'll also include planning for equity in every plan. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this is really important for all of our planning efforts. So making sure that plan vision and recommendations are equitable and will help achieve an equitable city. And then we'll have recommendations on a variety of topics. So land use and built form, what uses go where, how big buildings should be, what they should look like, things like that. Housing, how can we improve housing affordability and housing options. Economy, making sure that we have appropriate businesses, that the existing businesses are supported, that people have access to jobs and education, things like that. Mobility, for the whole range of mobility options, so walking, biking, transit, and cars, making sure that we have those complete networks and are achieving our citywide goals there. And then again, quality of life infrastructure, which, as I mentioned earlier, is this sort of catch-all topic for a whole bunch of things, including health, parks, environmental quality, things like that. So there will be specific recommendations for each of those topics. And then we also have sections for each of these neighborhoods. So in the past, we would do one of these plans for an individual neighborhood. Now we're combining neighborhoods through the neighborhood planning initiative, but we know not all neighborhoods in a group in an area like this have the same issues. So we do want to acknowledge that and have some space for individualized recommendations for each neighborhood. So each neighborhood will get its own section with the recommendations dealing with the specific issues for that neighborhood. And then we'll talk about implementation and how to achieve the recommendations for that plan. So those are the always topics that go into every plan. And then we also will have the focus topics, which will be determined by the community's priorities. So through what we're learning in this first phase, that'll help us determine which topics should be included in the plan. And sometimes those topics are things that the plan can't really help with, or they're things that the city already does. And it's just a matter of connecting residents or groups with the agencies or organizations that are dealing with them. So we will also have opportunities to make those connections and help address issues that the city can address now if we already have the things in place. And then again, implementation, this is the same slide we saw earlier, but implementation is achieved through these three buckets of regulation, funding, and partnerships. So all of the recommendations in the plan will be assigned to sort of one of these buckets of how we will implement it. All right, now more questions. So let me jump back over to Menti. All right, so again, if you've lost your place, go to menti.com, enter code 95170567, and you can join back up. All right, so first tell us what topics you are interested in the plan. So these are some of the topics that the plan will address. So let us know which ones you think are most important to you or you're most interested in seeing the plan address. And you can pick up to 3 in this one as well. All right, looks like mobility is high up there, as is trees and parks and green space, and building design. So that's not surprising. Those are 3 of the biggest, most important topics. So it's great to see those getting a lot of interest. All right, let's move on to the next one. So this is your opportunity to give us more open-ended responses. So tell us what you like about Near Southeast. You've got 3 boxes there. Each one should be just a word or 2. It's going to make a word cloud up here on the screen. So just in a word or 2, tell us the things that you really like about Near Southeast, about your neighborhood, about your community. And that could be really anything, whatever it is you like. And yeah, you can enter 3 options there, and we can see the ones that get more mentions start to fill up our word cloud here. Okay, well, Parks has occupied that center spot for a while now. So that's definitely an amenity in the area. Looks like the location, the neighbors in the neighborhood, friendliness in the area, convenience, affordability, trails are all getting multiple mentions. So those are all good things, and those are all things that we will try to reinforce through this plan. These are things that are already working well, so we want to make sure that they continue to work well and continue to serve the community into the future. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is the inverse of that. So what issues do you have in the area? What do you dislike? What would you like to see changed? What are some of the things that detract from living in the area or make it difficult to live in the area? Again, you've got 3 options. Keep each one to just a word or 2. And that'll start to fill up our word cloud. All right, well, we're starting to see a theme here with traffic, cars, Evans Avenue, speeding, all getting a lot of mentions. So that is clearly an issue, as are the sidewalks, it looks like. Affordability and homelessness also coming up here, and some lack of restaurants or other amenities. Okay, that's all good, good feedback. Thank you. And now, thinking about the future, imagine yourself in 2040 and think about, in your ideal version of near Southeast or your neighborhood in 2040, what would you like it to be like? And what words would you like to be able to use to describe that? So again, imagine yourself 20 years in the future, thinking about your neighborhood. What words would you, your ideal version of your neighborhood, what words would you use to describe it? All right, so seeing walkable, diverse community, affordable, green, safe, quiet, accessible. Those are all great descriptors. And again, this will help us form that vision for the plan about how we want to see it evolve over the next 20 years. All right, I'm jumping back to a few more slides. So talking about community engagement, this will be vital to the plan. This is really intended to be the community's plan. We want you to define the vision and guide the development of the strategies and recommendations to achieve that vision. So engagement is vital to do that. We have an engagement strategy that we are developing, and we want your input on to help us further develop. It'll lay out the engagement goals for the planning process, describe the methods we'll use, identify how we'll track progress, and will be used throughout the process as sort of our measuring stick to make sure we're doing what we said we would, what the community wants us to do in terms of engagement. And then when we look back at the process, when we get to the adoption portion, we'll be able to say, hopefully, that we met the goals and the expectations for engagement and had a successful engagement process. So to that end, we have some engagement goals that we have identified, and these can be modified or added to based on what we hear from the community. But these are our draft goals right now. So that we want representative engagement of everyone who lives and works and visits in the area. And we want to focus our engagement on groups that have traditionally been underrepresented or marginalized in city planning processes. So, like I said, we want to hear from everybody, but we want to especially hear from the folks who tend not to participate in these planning processes. That's where we're going to focus a lot of our engagement effort. We want to make sure we're building trust between all the participants and make sure that we can have honest and fruitful conversations, and then make sure that we are educating everyone in how the process works so everyone feels like they have the information they need to participate fully and successfully. So to that end, in terms of our equitable engagement, we have identified some groups that have traditionally been underrepresented in our planning processes and some ideas for how to engage them. Again, this list is a draft tentative list. This can change and be added to. So if there are other groups that you're not seeing on here that you think we need to be engaging, please let us know and we will make an effort to reach out to them as well. But the groups we have already identified are Hispanic, Latinx, Latino, Latina residents, Spanish-speaking residents in the area, Black residents in the area, the immigrant communities in the area, younger folks and older folks, renters in the area, and lower income residents as well. So like I said, we'll be making a special effort to engage these groups throughout the process. We also want to make sure that the engagement strategy is tailored to the specific needs of Near Southeast. Not every part of the city has the same needs. So we've tried to identify some of these special considerations for Near Southeast that we'll need to be aware of. One of those is that there are a lot of small neighborhood organizations in the area. Some areas have one or two large RNOs that cover the entire area. That's not the case here. There are a few larger ones, but there are also many smaller ones. So making sure that they're all engaged and represented. Similarly, a lack of business organizations. There's the East Evans Business Association, which is great, and we're engaging with them. But the businesses on Leetsdale, the businesses on Colorado don't have a similar organization that makes it easy to engage them. There's a wide variety of religious communities and organizations. There's a significant Jewish community, Muslim community, lots of Christian churches as well. So making sure that they are aware of the process and participating. And then proximity to other jurisdictions. We have Glendale in the Northwest, and then Arapahoe County to the east, and then the Arapahoe County enclaves on the south side as well. So we've already started engaging with our colleagues in these other jurisdictions, and we'll continue to do that throughout the process. So those are, again, the preliminary considerations we've identified, but we want to hear from the community on what else we need to pay attention to. Throughout the process, we'll use a variety of tools. This is a list of everything that we could be using, including community workshops that will be both virtual like tonight, and in the future, we will hopefully be able to do more larger in-person meetings, but we'll also be doing smaller in-person meetings, online surveys, group meetings, focused population engagement, focus groups, tours. We will be engaging community navigators, which will be folks from the community that we will be working with to make those additional connections between the planning team and members of the community that are not traditionally participating. So tonight is the public kickoff. We will be, over the next month or so, be doing a variety of activities to really launch the plan and hear from you. And our goals for this round of engagement, this phase one process, is to understand how you all view the area, what you like and what you don't like, learn what you want the community to be like in the future, that visioning element, identify those major issues, improve the engagement strategy, as I just talked about, and then doing that education component to make sure that everybody has the background that they need to be a full participant in the process. So to do that, we'll be using a variety of the tools that you saw in that previous slide, including tonight's virtual meeting. There's an online survey available now, which I'll talk about more in just a second. We'll be doing some outdoor events, going to parks and having pop-up events that folks can come to and talk to us, doing some tours, doing some intercept surveys at locations around the area, that targeted engagement, talking to stakeholders in the area, and getting those community navigators engaged as well. So with that, a few more questions. This, I think, is the last round of questions for you all. So one last time, if you've lost it, menti.com, enter 95170567. So tell us how you would like to participate in the process. These are some of those options that I just had up on the screen. Tell us which ones you think would be best for you to participate in, which ones you're most interested in participating in. And you can check as many as you would like to for this. All right, looks like attending online virtual meetings is getting a lot of votes, which is not surprising from the people who are attending the online virtual meeting. We're also seeing take online surveys, get email updates, neighborhood meetings, all getting quite a few votes. Next question, this is similar to the question we asked about at the beginning, but more in general. How do you hear about things happening in your neighborhood? So that's both planning things like this and really anything that's going on. What are the tools you use or the pathways that you're getting information about your community and what's happening? All right, flyers and mailers getting a lot, and city information or the city website emails, along with friends and neighbors, council offices, and neighborhood groups. Great. All right, this one is maybe the most difficult question we're going to ask tonight. But the idea is, at the end of the process, looking back, what would you like to be able to see that we have done? How do you think a successful process will work? This is sort of an open-ended question, so you can write longer things and we'll start to see the answers pop up here that people put in. So I know this is a bit difficult and a bit vague, but what do you think we should be doing to make a successful engagement process? So yeah, these are great answers. Contributions are heard and taken into consideration. Ideas like group study, get more people involved, wide variety of demographics, improving the neighborhood environment, diverse participation, results before today's children have moved to another state. We will work on that. Listening to the neighborhoods, over communicate. It's a great suggestion. Inclusivity, don't make things worse. We certainly don't want to do that. Including all socioeconomic residents, especially youth and renters. Meet with 4 Square Mile. Yes, we will definitely do that. I think I have their contact information. I will be reaching out to them soon. For those who don't know, 4 Square Mile is the neighborhood in Arapahoe County, just east and surrounding the Indian Creek neighborhood. Present the plan before decisions are made, allow discussion before it's too late. Absolutely. Reach all corners of the neighborhood. We will endeavor to do that as well. Yeah, these are all great comments? All right. Thank you everyone for providing these. And that is the end of that portion. Got a few more slides here, and then we will get to the Q&A. So like I said, we have a survey up now. It is available on the website. So if you go to the plan website, which is denvergov.org/near-southeast-plan, you'll see the link there. It says take the 15-minute Kickoff Survey. It has a lot of the same questions that we asked you tonight, but also has opportunity for more in-depth responses and mapping opportunity, which I want to share how that will work. So let me jump over here. So when you open up the survey, this is what you'll see. Some information, we'll ask some basic questions, and then you'll get to these map questions. And what you can do here is put in a generic response, but if you want to talk about a specific location, you can zoom in, pick what you like and say, what do you like about this? I love Cook Park. And provide those details. And there's, what do you like? What are you concerned about? And what's your big idea? And then we get into more of these survey questions like you answered tonight. So just want to give a quick overview of how to do the PIN questions, the map questions. If you're having problems with it, you can contact us and we can help you with that as well. So that's the survey, and that will be up for the next month or so. And so feel free to take that at your convenience, tell your friends and neighbors about it, get them to take it as well. This presentation will also be on the website if anyone missed it, and they can watch it later. What happened here? All right. So that's the end of the presentation, and we've got time here for questions and answers. So Jason and Libby have been monitoring the Q&A for me throughout the meeting, so they will serve up some questions that I will try to answer. So Libby, Jason, got any ready to go?
Sure, Scott, I can go ahead and start. And just a big thank you to folks that have been participating in the Q&A portion of this presentation. We've got a lot of great questions. I think covered a lot of diverse topics. So thank you for those that have already sent us questions. And if you do have questions for the kind of the latter part of this meeting, please feel free to continue to send us some. And so Scott, I wanted to pull out a few kind of themes that we saw. And you did cover this in the presentation, but I do think it bears repeating. Some of the folks have recognized that, you know, with these 5 neighborhoods, they're very different neighborhoods, and they have different challenges. We will probably receive a lot of different responses based on folks that live in those different neighborhoods. So can you talk a little bit about how the plan is going to address, you know, each individual neighborhood and kind of what those recommendations might look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll notice in sort of all of our engagement, we ask a variety of demographic questions to make sure we're hearing from a wide range of people. And one of those questions is always what neighborhood you're from. So we'll be able to track the responses based on what neighborhood folks are from and segment them that way. So if we're getting a lot of comments related to one topic that's focused in one neighborhood, we'll be able to recognize that. And that will feed into those neighborhood sections in the plan that I mentioned. So within the plan, each neighborhood will get its own section to address its own unique issues. So throughout the process, we'll be able to identify those issues for each neighborhood, develop recommendations for those, work with the community to refine those recommendations to make sure that they are addressing the specific issues within each neighborhood. So you're absolutely right. Neighborhoods are different, and even within neighborhoods, some of these neighborhoods are fairly large, and issues along Colorado Boulevard are very different from the issues along Monaco. And so we'll be able to dive into that, not even at the neighborhood level, but at the more detailed level as well. So yes, good question.
Great, thank you for that, Scott. And a question here in regards to, I think, kind of the mobility topic. Earlier on in the presentation, there were a couple of questions about, navigating the neighborhoods as a pedestrian, and I think folks would like to know if the plan will provide recommendations on, missing sidewalks and addressing some of the the narrow sidewalks and the sidewalk widths. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how the area plan will kind of focus on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The plan will definitely address that. We have already mapped all of those and identified them. We have what we call a briefing book, which compiles a whole bunch of existing conditions maps that we are finalizing now and will be up on the website in the next week or two. And you'll be able to see that map that identifies the areas with missing sidewalks or with too narrow sidewalks. And so we're aware of that. Our citywide plans, like Denver Moves Pedestrians and Trails, call for completing the sidewalk network and improving it where it's too narrow or has other deficiencies. And so we will be looking at specific recommendations and prioritization in this plan of what are the areas with the greatest need for improvements in sidewalks and how can we move them up in the queue so that we're making those improvements as quickly as possible and combining them with other improvements so that we're not tearing up streets multiple times and doing things like that.
Wonderful, thank you. And another question, we seem to be getting a lot of questions about, specific developments at, specific sites within the area. And so I just wanted to point to the chat. Libby Adams just put in a link. That's a link to our colleagues at Development Services that have documented some of the larger kind of site development plans and some of the larger developments that are going in the community. And I know a lot of folks have questions about kind of what's happening in their neighborhood. And so I just wanted to point folks that direction. I apologize. I think we had the incorrect link earlier in the presentation, but we just put the correct one down there. And Scott, since we are on the mobility topic, a few folks were also talking a little bit about transit. And so, would you also talk a little bit about how the area plan will kind of recommend improvements to the transit system, and then maybe also how we are going to be working with RTD throughout this process to kind of help identify some of those issues, as well as communicate these concerns to RTD.
Yes, absolutely. As Jason just said, we are working with RTD. We have already met with them and will continue to meet with them and work with them throughout the process to address transit needs. And then we also have the Denver Moves Transit Plan, which is the city zone transit plan, which this plan will also look at how we can advance and implement in near Southeast. And some of that is working with RTD, and some of that is figuring out what the city can sort of do to supplement that, what RTD does. And so, we have some great transit options already in near Southeast with the RTD Southeast line with 2 stops. But we know, over the last year, transit service has been significantly scaled back throughout the RTD service area. So we're already talking with RTD about how that is going to be sort of ramped up, what the priorities are in adding service back, and then how can we make sure that we're doing that equitably and improving service. And so there's sort of the service aspect of it, of how frequently do the buses come, where do they connect to, and we'll be working with RTD on that. And then there's the other issue of making sure people can get to the buses and feel safe and comfortable. So it ties back to the sidewalks we were just talking about, making sure people have access to those bus stops, putting in the amenities at the bus stops, the shelters and the trash cans and things like that to make them convenient and safe. All of those are topics that the plan will address, and we will be working with our transportation and infrastructure department within the city, RTD outside the city, and the community to address all of those topics.
Awesome, thanks for that, Scott. Do you think you could share where they'll be able to find this recording later on, or if they want to share it with neighbors, where results to the surveys might be found?
Yeah, absolutely. That will all be put up on the website. Let me show you the website again. So the recording and the survey results, once we close the survey and are able to publish those results, will all be up on the website. Let me get back to the way. It's killing me. All right. Here's the plan website. So if you go to Project Archive on the website, which again is denvergov.org/near-southeast-plan, this was where all of this past information will be. So you can see, once we have surveys completed, past survey information will be there. Community meetings, past information will be there. We already have information from our first steering committee meeting. So if you want to see the recording of that meeting or see the presentation from that meeting, that is up on the website as well. So this will be our project archive throughout the process. If there's ever anything you want to go back and find or look at, this is the place to look for it. If you think there's something that should be up there that's not, contact us. It may just be that we haven't been able to get it up on the website yet. So please let us know if there's anything missing. But that is a great question. And this website will be sort of the main hub throughout the process. So if you ever have any questions, this is a great place to start. And it also has a contact form. If you want to just submit generic contacts or have a question, you can also use that on the website. If we have any more questions, we are a bit over the 7:15 end time that we had put up. We're happy to answer a few more questions, but if folks want to go eat dinner or something, feel free to do that. Again, this will be up on the website recording, so if you need to leave and want to rewatch the end of this, you can do so at a later date. But Jason, you got another question?
Scott, I do have one, and I think it's come up just a few times here, and so maybe it's a good question to kind of close on here. I think a lot of folks obviously care about some of the projects and recommendations that are going to come out of this planning process, and so can you maybe talk a little bit about kind of the intent behind, you had mentioned in the presentation that we are going to have kind of this implementation chapter. Can you talk a little bit about how that will kind of help decide some of the short-term and long-term projects and kind of what the funding might look like, as well as some of the partnerships that we're going to encourage?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, the implementation section will talk about how we will implement the recommendations as we've discussed, and it will prioritize those. And we usually look at that as sort of short-term, medium-term, long-term. So the plan has sort of a 20-year planning horizon. We're looking out to 2040. And so, short-term is in the next couple of years, medium-term is, 3 to 5 or 7 years, and then long-term is up to that 20-year plan horizon. And so based on community input, we will sort of rank and prioritize the recommendations of what should be done sooner, what can be done later. And then we will also be looking for things that we can do really quickly. So we have what we like to call quick wins. So it's recommendations from the plan that we can implement within the next year or so. And so we'll try to identify some of those and get some funding or whatever else is needed to get those implemented right away. We like to keep that momentum going. If we have all this engagement in the plan, sometimes the plan just goes and sits on the shelf and people sort of forget about it and you lose that momentum and it's hard to get going again. So we want to keep that implementation going soon after the adoption. And so we will work with the community to identify those things that we can do really quickly so people can start to see the impact of the plan right away. All right, is that it for the questions? And again, if you didn't get your question answered, there's a contact form on the website, submit it, and we will try to get to it there. We will also be out in the community over the next month at parks and other locations, events. And so you can come talk to us there if you feel like you need to have more of a one-on-one conversation or want to dive into the details on something. There will be plenty of opportunities to meet with us in person. And we look forward to meeting with all of you over the next month and over the next 18 months as we work on this plan process. So thank you very much for attending tonight and for your interest in the plan. Like I said, we're really excited to get started on this. And we think this is going to be a great process. Thank you to Jason and Libby for helping out. Thank you to all of the council members for attending and welcoming us and for helping spread the word about this. Thanks to Indira for the interpretation. And like I said, go to the website, denvergov.org/near southeast plan, take the survey, spread the word, tell your neighbors. And we look forward to working with you throughout the planning process. Thanks, everyone.